Hello again to my home care heroes. Today we're going to talk about the nurse assessment and your guide to hiring a home health care nurse. Our learning objectives today will be verifying the licensure, job description, assessment, employee training, and the contract. First thing we're going to go over is the administrative requirements, aka what do you need in your nurse's folder. You're going to first need a copy of the licensure through LLR. If the nurse does not submit the actual license to you to make a copy, you can always go on LLR and verify the licensure before even calling a nurse or even interviewing her. You must check the abuse registry, sex offender registry, and get an application. Although some of them may want to submit a resume, they're going to be looking for an actual application that is signed and dated as well. You're going to need to conduct a background SLED check, have a signed job description, and a contract. Although your governing bodies aren't going to look for a contract, that is just something that you should have as an agency owner. In the job description, you want to make sure it lists something along the lines of these components: capable of evaluating the aide's competency, able to assume responsibility for in-service training. They must have a background or training on the complex treatment issues regarding the care of head and spinal cord injury. It is your nurse's responsibility to conduct instructor-led training for a certain amount of hours for your employees each year. In order for you to show that they have this background and training in head and spinal cord injury, you can, for one, get their college transcript and make sure you see the type of things that they were dealing with, complex treatment, or something that says they're dealing with head and spinal cord injury. You can also have an online training given to them, something like some Allison courses, so that they'll take the training and you can place it in your folder. They must conduct the client health assessment, be accessible by pager or beeper, and understand that they are a contract employee, and all of their signatures must be original and dated. With COVID, a lot of things are being done online, but just make sure she knows at some point in time, we can do DocuSign, but at some point in time, make sure you come into the office so we can get an original signature. We don't know how lenient the governing bodies are going to be with having original signatures. With COVID, who knows? But to be on the safe side, I will make sure I get an original signature. So we're going to roll right into what the assessment is. So the nurse will schedule the assessment with the client. She's going to choose the date and time, and that is part of the reason why she's a contract employee, because she can schedule her own assessment dates and what time is convenient for her and the client. So it's not that we can tell her, hey, you have to do an assessment by 5 o'clock on Tuesday. She can work it where she goes at any given day, and understand that the nurse for Medicaid is not being reimbursed. So that's something that has to come out of your pocket. But nevertheless, when she's completed an assignment, an assessment, the nurse should complete what is called a complete health assessment, which is a detailed examination that typically includes a thorough health history and comprehensive head to toe physical exam. This is going to let her know what their bodily functions are, what their limitations are, what issues they're having. And then once we get a head to toe exam, she should start a problem focused assessment, which is an assessment focused on a specific body system such as respiratory or cardiac. While the entire body is important, there is usually not enough time for a detailed full body assessment. So because we're doing non-medical home health care and we're only allotted a certain amount of hours, which is typically 8 is really the max that you will see with Medicaid clients. We need to have the ADLs and care plans focused on what are their major functions. What are the things that are going to improve the health and quality of life of the client? And from these 2 health assessments, you should be able to develop a care plan with your task sheets that outline what is most important. Is maintaining the housekeeping more important than going out doing errands? Although the clients would like to go out and hang out, is it more important to get her environment safe and clean? Although she may want to go to the grocery store every day, is it more important that we are at home at a certain time to get medications done, getting her eating on a certain schedule? So between these two assessments, you should have a good picture of exactly what you can do to improve the quality of life from your client. Nurses are required to complete a 30-day assessment after the initial start of care and every 4 months thereafter. This is, of course, for our Medicaid clients. If the client starts on January 1st, February 1st, a 30-day visit should be conducted, and every 4 months after February 1st. The nurse will be required to clock in through HOMECARE, and you as an owner need to document that in the folder. I'm going to show you guys an example of that. They're going to review the care plan, review the assessment, and log any complaints during those visits. We're going to start with the initial assessment. So this is an example of my nurse assessment form. Up here is where the nurse can capture her signature and date. We make sure we ask, have you tested positive for COVID or been in contact with anyone? Here we'll go over their primary diagnosis, if they have an advanced directive, and if so, where is it located, just in case it's an emergency. If they are a diabetic, any recent medical information, surgeries, or anything that we should be aware of, any allergies or pets, daily needs, daily routine. When your nurse is going there, she should go in the house to build a rapport. It's not a yes or no or a very uniformed way of asking these questions and finding this information. I find it best if you go in, hey, Mr. John, I'm from Palmetto Southern Comfort, and I came to conduct your nurse assessment. Tell me a little bit about what's been going on. How's your health been going on? What kind of problems you've been having? Talk to them as if they are family members, so they can feel comfortable with you, and you can start feeling comfortable with them and start gauging their baseline and things like that. When the nurse goes in and she's asking, hey, we're going to be talking about how's your vision. If she's having a conversation with him, she should be able to grab this information. But if she has to go, hey, Mr. John, how's your vision? You got any cataracts or you wear glasses? The information that he's giving her, yes, she can check here that he has glasses, but she also needs to have some type of narrative, and that's what this line is for. If he has a hearing aid, she should find out, hey, can he hear? He has better hearing in his right ear. Aid should stand on the right side to talk to him. He often loses his hearing aid, things of that nature. If he is a one-to-one or standby, does he need standby assistance getting in the shower? Does he need standby assistance getting in the car? Exactly, give us a better picture of just clicking yes, no, or, one-to-one. We'll also go over the nutritional needs and intake of the client, because we need to know exactly if they are on a regular diet, puree diet, if they have thickened liquids, or if they're even a choking hazard. You'll get a picture of, do they wear briefs, what type of urinary function or bowel function they have, pain management, are we administering medication reminders, wounds. And so wounds and open sores are when the complete health assessment goes in. If they are diabetic, you should encourage your nurse to say, hey, take off ask them, do they mind taking off their socks, and that you looking at their toenails, looking at their hands, and things like that, so we can kind of figure out what is the best plan of action to administer care. We'll have the nurse go over the schedule. Typically, I've already plugged this in by talking to them. If they are a Medicaid client, during the nurse assessment, have her capture their signature here, explain the Bill of Rights, grievance procedure, if they have advanced directive, and if your caregiver has anything on their background that they are made aware of. I give my clients these next few copies, which is the grievance procedure. If they need to log any complaints, they can call the office. If they're not satisfied with that decision, then they can go to DHEC and log their complaint. Here's a shrunk down copy of the South Carolina Client's Bill of Rights. This is their information on what is an advance directive, because some of them may not even know what that is. The nurse will also conduct a site assessment while she's there, and this is usually done just by a visual scan of the house. Once she's talking to them and completing her assessment, she may say, "Hey, take me to the house and show me where you put things so we can let the aide know, and what have you." Check for loose rugs and mats. If things are trip hazards, if they have smoke alarms, if they do, where are these things located? Fire extinguisher, stairways, bathroom, if they have grab bars, bath seats, things like that. On our 30-day visit, this is what we utilize. The nurse will either call or go to the home, clock in, and sit down and just have a conversation with the client. How are you satisfied with our services? Are you satisfied with the frequency? Has the caregiver been following the care plan and on time? Are they courteous and pleasant? Is there anything we can do for you? And are there any complaints? Your nurse can go through, ask these questions, and write her explanations. Ask them how the housekeeping is being done. But it's also important and required that the caregiver be present for at least one of those visits. So make sure you ask the caregiver, how's the relationship with the client? Has there been any decline in the health? Any concerns regarding their health? And then also capture the signature of the assessor, aka the nurse. So that is an example of an assessment. The training requirements. We have training requirements from DHEC and Medicaid. Some of them merge and some of them do not. So just make sure you have a copy of both of the requirements. You can find the DHEC requirement for training inside of the regulation, which is these first few. All training must be signed and dated by both the individual providing the training and receiving the training. A signature for the individual providing training may be omitted if it is online training. Employees are required to have 10 hours of annual training. 6 hours of them can be self-study, which will be your online courses, Allison courses, or printed materials that you give them. 4 hours must be instructor-led. That means 4 of those 10 hours must be signed off by a nurse. Training can be conducted while the aide is providing care. So, which that means basically on-the-job training. When the nurse goes out to complete her assessment, it is kind of smart to send the aide with them, and that way she can be getting training signed off during that time, and she can learn anything that she needs to provide care at that time. If an LPN is conducting the training, it must have an RN signature as well. Long and short, we need an RN at the end of the day. So I'm going to show you guys what the Medicaid training sheet looks like. This is the Medicaid competency evaluation. As you can see, it's here for the aide's name, social, what the agency name is, who's being administered the test, her name, her title, and license. So if it's LPN, RN, and whatever her license number is. Here is the list that within a year, everything needs to be passed and signed off on. Things like recording temperature, I would let the nurse do. Ways to work with the emotional and developmental needs, I would have the nurse do. Safe transferring techniques, I would have the nurse do. Normal range of motion and positioning. All these other things are more administrative. This is more of housekeeping. This is more of administrative. Safe techniques when grooming, unless they have a communicable disease, these things can be taught from a YouTube video. Here, the nurse is able to make any dates or, say, hey, they need to be retested, or touch on strengths, weaknesses of the caregiver. Also down here, this is if the instructor is you, a LPN, they'll sign here, and the nurse supervisor will sign there. And again, this is the task. This is the medication, not medication. This is a training record developed by Medicaid. And just speaking of, once they have done the nurse assessment, this is a copy of the task sheet. If you have a DDSN client and they cannot clock in or out, here is where you will capture it. You do need to put a place down here for the nurse to sign. I think mine just got cut off. And this is just going to be the task sheet, what they're going to do every day. You can highlight the ones that they want, that you set them to do, but if they're required to do all of these, or just have them check off on what they actually do. And this is going to give you 2 weeks of care. Again, have the nurse sign it, have the staff turn these in, and file them into the client's folder. Training documentation, any type of training you do must list the topic, name, and title of the trainer, training objectives, outline of content, list of training, list of trainees, location. So that just makes sure your training sign-in sheet has all of those components. All right, guys, the last part is the nurse contract. Again, I won't say there's not a right or wrong, because it is a right or wrong way to write a contract, but it's your agency, so you can formulate, include, exclude anything in your contract that you feel necessary. A contract at minimum should outline the job duties, fee schedule, terms of contract termination, the expectations, and the ownership of the intellectual property. Okay, let's jump over to an example. The nurse contract. As you see here, I start off letting them know that it's an independent contract. We're going in effect of this day. I'm going to include the nurse's information. The agency and the contractor agrees. The agency is a licensed non-medical home care agency that provides healthcare professionals to render services to agency's patients. The contractor is an experienced and duly qualified license to perform the nurse assessment within discipline scope of services, job description, and render the services in South Carolina. Let's talk about the fee schedule. So, the way that I have mine structured is on a per client basis. So, for $50, the nurse is entering a contract with me to conduct an in-person initial assessment. I put telehealth here now because we can do it on the phone. Supervision of the care plan and task development. Once the nurse gives me the initial assessment, me as an administrator, or you just as an owner, should be able to develop a care plan and outline the tasks that the caregivers are going to conduct. Once you have created those forms, the nurse is going to look over them and sign off. That's all she's doing. She may edit some things. So I'm paying her to conduct the assessment, and I'm going to do the develop, aka type it out, the care plan and the task sheets for them. And all she's going to do is sign. If for some reason I need her to go back to the house, if there is a major decline in the client or anything else, I will pay her a fee of $30 to go back to the home. If there is any subsequent telehealth assessments, I'll pay $20. So if she's doing her 30-day visit, her every 4-month visit, it is going to be a $20 base pay. If she's out conducting assessments and we have her scheduled for more than one client, she will get the $30 plus 56 cents per mile from client to client, not from home to client, but from client to client. If we're doing some on-the-job training, it'll be $15 per employee that is going to be doing the training. These fees can be negotiated. You can break it down any way you want to, but do what's best for your agency and what is financially smart. I've had some nurses want $75, not gonna happen. Not just for an assessment. Now, if you were gonna do all of these for $75, then we can talk about something. This is again, the term is at will, may be terminated by either party anytime by giving a 30-day written notice. The agency at times have the overall responsibility for quality of care provided to agency patients. During such time, the contractor is providing services to agency patients pursuant to this agreement. The agencies that have ultimate authority and control over the services provided by the contractor. The agency is over the administrative authority, which means she has to clock in and clock out. Although she's a contractor, she has to follow our policy and procedures when it comes to clocking in and clocking out. We give them 2 days to perform the initial assessment. She can do it at any given time. The initial assessment has to be done within 2 days. We give her a schedule that outlines the month, each month, and what what clients are doing that month, and she has the entire month to get it done by the last day of the month. The agency guarantees no minimum number of patients to be assigned to the contractor. The contractor shall schedule patient visits to conform to the needs of the agency's patients. That just means she's going to take on the responsibility of scheduling them and work with the clients to work with what best fits their schedule. The contractor shall participate in the development of a care plan and task sheets. The contractor shall provide records of the initial assessment, ongoing revisions, progress reports, including documentation within 5 days. So after she's conducted an assessment, I need my forms back in 5 days. Contractor's notes and documentation shall be reviewed by the agency prior to payment. Make sure I'm not going to pay her ahead of time and then I have no guarantee of getting exactly what I need back. So once I have got the assessment back, I've created the care plan, I've created the task sheets for the employees, then we can move forward with payment. This also states that she will participate in in-service and educational training, and will provide PPE if she needs it. She'll be in accordance with the weekly pay schedule, and just some other contingencies in it. Both parties will sign and date it, and that is your nurse contract. So you can include whatever you want in it, but just make sure everybody has a clear description of what they are expected to do. We're going to jump over to the nurse job description. Although she's a contractor, she still needs to have a job description in the folder. This verbiage is taken out of the regulations. I have it where we talk about the initial visits and what must be included in there, where she must clock in at, and just some other duties. I'll take a second and go over that. And that is going to be a quick guide to hiring your nurse. It's not all inclusive, so some things we may not have touched on, but this is just a general overview of the things you'll need to hire your nurse. I hope this helps. I hope I explained myself well. And again, as always, if you need any assistance, just please inbox me or call me. And thank you, God, for your service and all that you do for the community.